So welcome back to What Going With Me, Garry. I'm still working on this group of French 1914 infantry and a few, I'll just move that over there for a minute, and a few Marines. I think they're coming on well. I'll just put my glasses on. Not doing bad. I've done the coats, the hats, the trousers, the boots are now done. Most of the black strapping is done, and most of the canvas strapping and sleeping bag and the canvas bag is also done. I say sleeping bag. The sleeping bag has a canvas cover, according to the Osprey book. So that at that time of the war, anyway, that's as far as I've read. I'm not sure if they continued with that. Yeah. So and I've used off-bone white for that, but I will dirty that down. I'll put a brown wash on it, and that'll bring the colour right down. So yeah, I feel I should say again, I've said this before, I'm no expert. My painting is functional, and if people like it, that's really good. I'm really pleased with that. But I don't go out of my way. I don't try to do too much. I try to just do enough to add to my collection, and that's what I generally do. So there's my French infantry. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law, they asked me if I could, the name on their house was falling apart, and they asked me if I could touch it up a bit. Now I wish I'd shown you this when it started. Most of the letters had gone, and it was a grey, it was an off grey, but it had lots of bird stuff on it. And so all I've got to do with this now is put a little bit of varnish on to protect it, do the back as well, and that's done. I just thought I'd show you that because I don't know, am I the only one? I doubt it. I doubt if I'm the only one. You know when someone wants something, like because we paint figures like this, I often get asked to do quite intricate things, which I quite like. I like to do. I painted up an old fire engine bell once. It was the bell that you ring, ding 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 ding, and a lot of the paint had come off, and I did that. But I also put I think it was the West Sus. No, it was the what was it? WS1 London, City of London. And so a lot of that had been chipped off as well. So I took that off and painted that in. And I quite like doing it, but I just thought it was interesting that I get asked to do this sort of thing. For my brother-in-law, I'm also working on, now I've got here, this is a post-militare. Oh, let me move him back here. That's it, you can see a bit better. I believe he's a Westphalian guard hussar. And I painted him up a long time ago. I must have painted this chap up like 20 years easily 20 years ago. This is when post-military, I think I got this one for about £15. So it gives you some idea of how, we won't get one for £15 now. Won't get the box for £15 now. But what I was going to do is I was going to show you there was some bits which fell off. So over time, where people he's now put everything in, and he's got a glass cabinet, and he's locked it so that people can't get in. Because I did him a collection of figures, and this one is it the dolman? That came off. His arm fell off as well, where people kept picking him up and touching it. The sword, the saboteur had come off. The towel was loose. There was lots of chips in the paintwork. I think I've done all that now. The only thing I've got to do now is this arm is still a bit chipped. I've got to do the hat and put that plume back on. Of course, it snapped off. So what I did was I put a rod, a tiny little piece of metal rod in there to stick it on. Well, that's now in the hat and in there. So I think it'd be difficult to drill out, but I'll have to find something to keep that on there. But yeah, all in all, he's coming on. I see there's a bit on the trousers here and he's doing. But generally, he's getting back to where he should be. He was bent as well. He was leaning over to one side. So heavily leaning over to one side. So I've had to carefully prise him back. And I love the colour. I love the colour of the horse. It's like a real chestnut horse colour, or chestnut colours, yeah. So, yeah, and I was pleased how that turned out, actually. Really pleased how the horse turned out. But, yeah, so I'm working on that. I'll show you that as I go on. Now, the other thing, I have another post-militare hussar. He's a trumpeter from the same regiment, Westphalian Guard Hussar, and I decided to do whites, but now, this chap, as well as losing the plume, this arm had fell off, the coat had fallen off, the towel had come off, as you can see the plumes off there, the trumpet had fallen out. Like that. I mean, to be fair, this was in a mess, and he's still in a mess. A lot of that, you can see there's a lot of bits that needs attaching properly now. There's quite a few bits and pieces on there which have been damaged, and I lost the plume. I've only got one plume like that. So what I'm thinking of doing is I was thinking about trying to do a cast. Do a cast of that, so I can put one on there, or the alternative is just to make one up and out of green stuff and see what that looks like. But the other thing is, now this is my wife's figure. I got this from my wife ages ago, and we have really struggled here because we didn't have anywhere to put it, and so it ended up being on the kitchen table. Then it got moved from the kitchen table. We know it does, and it's moved its way around the house. In that time, that's how all the damage happened to it. I'm looking at the paint job. I don't think it's particularly, the horse isn't a particularly good paint job now, so I'm going to redo that and I'm going to make it a dapple grey. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. Oh, there's a big gap in here, so that needs filling. But most importantly, the dust on here is unbelievable. There is just so much dust, and that's what I've got to really work on and get all that cleaned up. But then what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to load of dust. It's everywhere, so I'm going to have to give that a real dust down. Have to be very careful with a lot of it, but yeah, I'm going to give that a real nice dust down, and then I'm going to virtually repaint this because there's so much. There are so many paint chips off that, and I'll do the plume as well. Yeah, so I just thought I'd show you. That's what I'm working on at the moment. The priority, of course, is these French infantry. But whilst I'm doing that, I'm also working on those two beauties. So that's me done. I've got to say, I can't remember seeing post-militare for some time. I don't know if they're still about. But I thought they were just exquisite models. I really did. Really, really good. And I'm really I'm ashamed of myself letting my, like the one I've got for my wife, get in such state of disrepair. But I will sort it out. Yeah. All the best then. Take care. Bye bye.